golfer is set up way to the left of his target line. His feet are straight down the barrel line, but his shoulders are way to the left. And we can tell that because we can see that the lead arm is under the trail arm. The trail arm. We need to do is reverse that position. And we do that by getting the lead shoulder out away from your body a little bit. Now notice as he starts back, he doesn't get his shoulders square until about, let's watch, as soon as that left arm comes into view. Right about there. Now his shoulders are square to his feet. You can see at that position here. And you can see how far the club has moved out and away from the golf ball. And he's going to have a tough time routing that club back from the inside. So let's see what happens as he goes back. He's lifting the club now. His arm's getting further away from his body. It's in a pretty good slot right there, but now he's going to dive down over the top. And again, that club is going to end up way outside. It's not even parallel to the lead arm. It's even outside the lead arm. So he's going to have that slice move, and he's going to have a slice. So we got to get him to square the shoulder, forearm higher than the right forearm at setup. Another way to think about it is you're looking down at the left forearm will be closer to the ball than the right forearm. At setup, we'd like to see the butt 6 inches or so behind the heels. And you can see that's not happening. That's because the knees are bent too far and we don't have the butt pushed out and up away from us. So let's see how she handles the takeaway from kind of a sitting down position. The alignment's good. Straight back, turning through, pretty nice. Now what's happening right here is that she's folding up her right arm too much. We hear a lot about keeping the left arm straight. You can't keep the left arm straight if the right arm bends beyond 90 degrees, and that's what's happening here. So we would just kind of straighten the right arm a little bit so the left arm can straighten out. And instead of having this bend right there, we'd have a nice straight left arm. We're going to come back down to the golf ball. She's bringing the club down over the top. See how the club is coming over the top, outside, face is wide open, turns into the shot, and sort of tops it a little bit. But actually worked out pretty good. So what we want her to do is work a little bit here on this position to get a little more width in her backswing, and then route the club right down like that, not over the top of that. Watch how the head of the club is coming out outside the hands. And once again on this view, we see that the club is parallel to the lead arm, not parallel to the trail arm. That's the one it's got to get parallel to on the way down. Okay, this golfer is lined up using the swing aligner. It creates a channel for you to swing the club through. We like to see a little bit more lead arm, but we can see some. Now let's go ahead and watch the takeaway. You can see all of a sudden he's starting to create a gap between his chest and his lead arm. That's what's driving the club behind him so far. That's where we'd like to see the club on the downswing, not on the backswing. On the backswing, we want those elbows, that lead elbow go to straight back, not out away from him like that. So he's going to go to the top of the backswing. Very nice straight left arm. God, that's amazing right there. Great position. Now he's up on the parallel position. Very good quality takeaway right there. Elbows down. As long as he doesn't go too far back, he's going to be in a good position. Goes too far, separates his arms a little bit. Now let's watch the downswing. See how the downswing is immediately over the top? Instead of just pulling the shaft, again, down and in, he's pulling it out over the top. So now the club is coming from way outside, and right there, the club is outside the lead arm, and it needs to be parallel to the trail arm. And again, it can't do that with those hands that far away from the body. Got to get the hands back down under the chin, more where they were at setup, so he can pull right through the shot and make a nice swing of it. Good hand-eye coordination, great athleticism, an amazing amount of power, just not in the slot. Here we have a golfer with the open shoulder stance. Notice that the right knee is pushed out past the left knee. You can see the left toe is out in front of the right toe, but the right knee is out in front of the left knee, which means the left shoulder's back. Now watch the takeaway here. We're going to watch him go back a little bit. Right about now, he's dead square. You can start seeing that. You can see the lead arm above the trail arm. The shoulders are pointed in the same direction as the feet, and he's nice and parallel. He's got the club back about 8 or 9 inches. The great Mo Norman, that's where he would start. That's kind of putting the club a little bit on the backswing in a proper position so you can always start correctly. From there, we continue turning back, take the club back nice low and slow. You can see what he does is from the correct position, he comes almost straight up. Out goes the right arm, flaring out on him a little bit, and then he's going to swing a little bit over the top again. So we've got to really work on him getting square and then learning how to pull those elbows together on the way down, because we really want the downswing to be down, down, and in. Or down and out, I'm sorry. So we got, instead of going out and across. It's going to be hard to control that shot. So let's work on the setup and see what we can do. Okay, this is going to be an entirely upper body swing. He's going to get very little leg action. But he's very strong and very athletic and has great hand-eye coordination. So let's watch this swing path. Goes back to the inside a little bit, and then he routes the club right back to the inside. So he's below the blue line both places, and look where the club shaft is here. More parallel to the left trail arm than it is to the left arm, isn't it? That's what we look for. Get that club to the inside. So it's coming from the inside out. And even though he doesn't have a lot of dynamic leg action, and he kind of scoops it a little bit, he gets a great shot. The hip turn, the leg drive, all that's for distance. And what he really is trying to do is just hit the ball straight down the fairway. And that swing is going to produce those results. Now, in the future, he may want to learn how to drive the knees into the shot, use a little more hip action, get a little bit more pelvic thrust. But for now, I would just go straight back and straight through him. It's almost the same line. You can see that. That's really nice. That's what we all should be trying to do, and then add our legs to it later. I've got a golfer do straight up and down again, providing for that rounding of the back instead of getting the stomach down, the chest down towards the golf ball a little bit, get the belt line tilted a little bit more down towards the ground, and get the butt out a little bit more behind us. So let's watch what happens here. Notice that we've got no angle at all from the golf club to the forearms, and we'd like to see a 144-degree angle. And that would look something like this. Let's see if I can do it. The club would be down here, and then we'd come up. That's what a 143-degree angle. That's pretty close. And you can see that hers is straight up and down. Hers is on here, and then there. So we got to get the hands down a little bit, and the only way to do that is get a little more spine tilt. Let's go ahead and watch the swing in slow motion. Lifts the club up because she has nowhere to go. Stands straight up now and down and through the shot. Can't generate any power from there. Now this is a person just learning to golf, so she did really pretty good. But we got to get that good spine tilt and get her moving over from around the swing, around the spine angle. Jack Nicklaus used to fly his right elbow a little bit, but he would always bring it back down to his spine angle before he started his downswing. So we're going to see here is a pretty decent takeaway. But then the right elbow flies. Now instead of dropping the right elbow down so that the forearm is down even with the spine, he's going to carry the club out away from his body a little bit. See how it's going out? That tells you that he's really going over the top here, that he's really throwing the club head at it. And once again we see that the club shaft is going to end up parallel out here with the forearm. It's way outside the hands. We'd like to see the shaft at this point, again, back a little bit more behind him so that the club can be kind of flung out and away from you to get that nice release. Now he's got great hand-eye coordination, loses a little balance, so he's still able to hit the ball, but he's going to be much more effective if he can just route that club a little bit more to the inside on the way down, the club head, that is. Okay, we have a pretty good setup here. Let's go ahead and draw in the spine angle in the club shaft. Up the club shaft, stop, parallel to the... So we'd like to see a 90-degree angle. That's within 10%. That's not too bad. Let's watch the takeaway here. Straight up the blue line to the top of the angle and back down the blue line. See how the hands are routing back down? They're a little bit out of where they were, but not too bad. Obviously, if we can bring him in a couple of inches closer, he's going to be in better shape. Also, you can see that the right hand here is a little bit under the club late on the downswing. I'd like to see the hand a little bit more on top. And that's only going to happen when the hands are closer to the body, back where they were on the blue line. So we're going to work a little bit on keeping those hands. The feeling is we want to swing under a table. Picture the tabletop was right here. He'd be running into that tabletop. So swing under the table and keep your hands close to your body, as close as they were at setup. When we see a rounded back like this, it means that we haven't tilted forward enough. There will be a little roundness appearing because the shoulders are leaning forward, but we don't want it to bend here. We've got to get him to get his spine going up here at that angle, more towards 1 o'clock on the clock face. And you can see very clearly that he's standing straight up and down. It's going to make it very difficult for him to get a good swing off. So let's watch what happens on the takeaway. He's standing straight up, no angle at all. His butt's not behind him. It's going to take the club way around behind him because he's standing so upright. Where else can the club go? Then he's going to come over the top and hit it on the heel. You can see how far outside the plane line that club hit is. I can see the ball inside the club. So it's going to make it very hard for him to get good contact, and he doesn't. He hits it on the heel because he's standing so upright. We've got to get him more into a catcher's position or an infielder's position or a lineman's position. Get those knees flexed, that butt out behind you, and get some spine tilt. What we're going to show here is the practice swing rather than the real swing. We're going to do that because with the practice swing, we don't worry about hitting the ball. We just execute the swing. And there's a couple of things I like to change. Again, I want his hands closer to his thighs so that the arms are under the chin. And you can see that if I draw a straight line down from the chin, his hands are pretty far away. So we've got to get those hands a little closer to the chin than they are there. Then we're going to watch what he does really, really well. He's going to take the club back wide. See how nice and wide he's staying? Right up, bisecting the shoulder. Now watch him clear his hips out of the way. He's coming down. He's trying to get the club parallel to the back arm. See how much better it is? And he drops that hands down. Look where that club is. That's what we're looking for, that club coming from the inside. Now watch his hips get out of the way. Right there. See, he's starting to get his hips out of the way. And he's going right on through to the finish. And he's going to keep his spine angle just like it was at setup. That's what he's got to emulate on his real swing. Before this golfer made his swing, I asked him what he was targeting, and he told me he was targeting out between the barrels, the last two barrels out there. And you can see that his foot alignment and his arms and shoulder alignment is way, way to the left of that. So let's see what happens in the swing. I'm going to draw the swing plane in. Hands are pretty low. Club's going back above the swing plane, and then it's going to come right down way over the top of the swing plane. So he's got no choice. Again, the club now is outside the lead arm, and it needs to be parallel to the trail arm, or again, back on that line right there on the way back down. Only way to get it down there is to get those hands dropping down back inside where they were at setup. So the hands are way away from his body. They're much further than they were at setup. He's going to cut across it, chunk it a little bit, coming in too steep, and he's going to have a little topper. So we go back and we take a look at where the hands were at setup. Look how close they are to his knees, just a few inches. Then we're going to come back and out at impact. Look how far out they are. He's really reaching out away from his body. Very awkward, very uncomfortable way to swing a golf club. The hands have to return to where they were at setup. Okay, we see a pretty good setup here, but what's going to happen with this golfer is he's going to take the club too far to the outside on the way down. What we want to see is a swing path that's pretty much along the blue line here, which is the club shaft. Now he does okay on the way up, but then he comes down over the top. See how he's coming over that blue line on the way down? And what will happen is when we get down to about the waist high position, you'll see that the club now is parallel with the lead arm, not the trail arm. And how we make that happen is we got to get the hands down closer to the body so the club can be more on this line, parallel to the trail arm, coming in from the inside instead of from over the top. And notice the ball flight. Off to the right it goes, and even more off to the right. So we have to get the club coming down more from the inside and more parallel to the trail arm. Okay, we have a pretty decent setup here. You can see the trail the trail arm is below the lead arm. That's good. Let's watch the takeaway now. See if we go straight back. Again, we tend to turn that arm out away, which brings that club too far to the inside. So it's inside the hands rather than outside the hands. Gets himself into a good position there. He's going to drop that club down. See how the club is going down? Almost parallel to the club plane. And he ends up with that club staying parallel to the trail arm, not the lead arm, right on through. Now what he could do is get a little bit more hip drive towards the target, a little more shift into the target, so he can rotate this foot right here so we can see those spikes. We never get to see them really. That's pretty minor. That's a power issue. He can play golf with the swing he's got right there.